The mop hits the marble floor with a wet slap that echoes through the empty lobby. Thaddeus Mercer pauses mid-stroke, every muscle in his body suddenly rigid. Through the towering glass doors of the Nexus Technologies building, he watches CEO Cordelia Ashworth step out of her pristine Tesla, laughing at something one of her 3 companions has said. But the laugh is wrong. Too high, too bright, like a wine glass vibrating just before it shatters. "Don't trust them," Thaddeus whispers to the empty air, his breath fogging the window he's been cleaning for the past 20 minutes, without realizing he hasn't moved the cloth once. The 3 men surrounding her move with the synchronized precision of hunting wolves. They smile with their mouths, but not their eyes. Garrett Blackwood, the CFO, touches her elbow to guide her toward the entrance. Lysander Crown, the philanthropist investor, holds the door with exaggerated courtesy. Silas Roth, the company's lead counsel, scans the street behind them like he's checking for witnesses. At 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, there should be no meetings. There should be no laughter. There should be no champagne flutes glinting in their hands. Hey there, night owls and story lovers. If you're enjoying this tale of deception and hidden dangers, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this psychological chess game unfolds. Now, let's dive deeper into the shadows. Thaddeus forces himself to resume mopping, creating deliberate figure eights across the floor, while his peripheral vision tracks their approach. 15 years with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has left marks that no amount of minimum wage janitorial work can erase. The automatic doors whisper open, and Cordelia's heels click across his freshly cleaned floor. She doesn't notice him. She never does. But tonight, that invisibility might save her life. "The papers are already drawn up," Silas is saying, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "All we need is your signature, and the charitable foundation will receive the entire patent portfolio. Think of the lives we'll save." Cordelia's response comes out slightly slurred, though Thaddeus watched her car. Pull up stone cold sober just minutes ago. "You're all so wonderful for arranging this. My father would be proud." The elevator dings, and Thaddeus's trained eye catches it all in the reflection of the polished wall. Garrett's finger taps against his thigh in a pattern. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Pause. 1 tap. Lysander's hand hovers near the small of Cordelia's back, without quite touching. Silas blocks the security camera's view with his body as they enter the elevator. Thaddeus drops his mop and moves. Not runs. Running would trigger their predator instincts, but walks with purpose toward the service elevator. His worn sneakers squeak against the marble, and Garrett's head swivels toward the sound. Their eyes meet for a fraction of a second, and in that moment, Thaddeus sees recognition bloom. Not of him personally, but of what he represents, an unplanned variable. "Forgot my supplies on 42, Thaddeus calls out cheerfully, playing the part of the harmless night janitor, though his heart hammers against his ribs like a caged bird. The executive elevator doors close on Cordelia's increasingly glassy expression. The service elevator is slower, older, but it runs on a different shaft, one that opens onto the executive floor from the opposite side. Thaddeus jabs the button for 42 and pulls out his phone. The photo of 7-year-old Delphine on his lock screen stares back at him, her gap-toothed smile a reminder of why he took this job, why he stays invisible, why he can't afford to get involved. But his wife Madison's voice echoes in his memory. Evil thrives when good people convince themselves it's not their problem. Madison, who died in a car accident 5 years ago. Madison, whose brake lines were cut so precisely that the local police never noticed, Madison, who had been investigating Lysander Crown Industries for her journalism piece on corporate malfeasance. The service elevator groans upward, and Thaddeus's mind races through behavioral patterns he observed. The champagne flutes, but no smell of alcohol on their breath. Cordelia's sudden impairment after entering the building. The 3 a.m. meeting time when security is minimal and witnesses non-existent. Floor 30 passes, then 35. At 40, Thaddeus hits the emergency stop button. The executive floor layout flashes through his memory. He's cleaned it hundreds of times. Conference room A has soundproof glass and electronic locks that can be controlled remotely. Conference room B has his windows that don't open and ventilation that runs on a separate system. The CEO's private office has a panic room that only she can access, if she's conscious enough to enter the code. He releases the emergency stop, and the elevator lurches upward. On 42, the doors open to darkness broken only by emergency lighting. The executive elevator should have arrived 90 seconds ago. Through the glass walls of the corner office, he sees them, 4 silhouettes against the city lights. But something's wrong with the count. There should be 3 men and Cordelia, but he sees 5 figures. The 5th figure emerges from the shadows as Thaddeus creeps closer, using the janitor's cart he keeps on this floor as cover. It's Emmett Walsh, the building's night security guard, who always brings Thaddeus coffee and talks about his grandkids. Emmett, who's worked here for 12 years. Emmett, who's supposed to be manning the security desk downstairs. Through the conference room's glass wall, Thaddeus watches Emmett hand Cordelia a fountain pen while the 3 men arrange papers on the mahogany table. Her hand shakes as she takes it, and Garrett steadies her wrist with practiced ease. "Just your name here," Silas points to a line on the document. "Then here, and here." Cordelia's head lolls forward, and Lysander catches her chin, tilting it back up. His lips move close to her ear, whispering something that makes her attempt to pull away, but her movements are sluggish, uncoordinated. Thaddeus needs to act, but 4 against 1 aren't odds even his FBI training can overcome. He needs leverage, distraction, something to even the playing field. His eyes scan the maintenance closet, industrial cleaners, electrical panels, fire suppression system. The answer comes to him with cold clarity. He wheels his cart to the electrical panel and studies the circuit breakers. Executive floor lighting is on its own circuit, but the conference room's electronic locks run through the security system. If he kills the security power, the locks default to open, fire safety protocol. But it will also trigger an alert at the main desk, and Emmett's replacement will investigate. Unless there's no replacement. Unless Emmett being up here is part of the plan. Thaddeus's fingers hover over the breakers as he watches Cordelia sign the first document. Her signature is shaky, but legally viable. Garrett produces a small digital recorder from his pocket. "For the record," he says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, "Ms. Ashworth is signing these documents of her own free will, transferring all intellectual property rights to the newly formed Crown Blackwood Charitable Trust." The word Crown Blackwood hits Thaddeus like ice water. Not just Lysander's company, but Garrett's name too. This isn't a hostile takeover. It's an inside job, years in the making. He flips the breaker. The conference room plunges into darkness. Emergency lighting kicks in a second later, bathing everything in red. The electronic lock clicks open, and Thaddeus moves, pushing through the door with his mop bucket, playing confused janitor. Sorry, circuit must have blown. Happens sometimes when I run the floor polisher," he babbles, wheeling his cart between Cordelia and the men. "Ms. Ashworth, you okay? You don't look so good." Cordelia's eyes struggle to focus on him. For the first time in 2 years, she actually sees him. Who are you? Night janitor, ma'am. Maybe we should get you some water. He reaches for her arm, but Garrett intercepts, his grip iron tight on Thaddeus's wrist. Everything's fine here, Garrett says, and his voice has dropped the friendly CFO mask entirely. Return to your duties. Sure thing, Thaddeus agrees amiably, then, accidentally on purpose, knocks over his mop bucket. Industrial-strength cleaning solution floods across the marble floor and the signed documents. Silas lunges to save the papers, slipping in the spreading puddle. Lysander curses, backing away from the chemical smell. Emmett moves to block the door. In the chaos, Thaddeus leans close to Cordelia's ear. Your father didn't commit suicide. These men killed him. The words cut through Cordelia's drug-induced fog like a shot of adrenaline. Her father's death 2 years ago ruled a suicide after financial irregularities were discovered. Irregularities that were quietly resolved after she became CEO. Her eyes sharpen, focusing on Thaddeus's face for the first time. She sees the intelligence there, the purpose, the danger. Who are you? She whispers again. But this time, it's a real question. Someone who knows their game, he murmurs back. Then louder, Geez, what a mess. Let me get paper towels from the supply closet. He starts to move, but Emmett blocks his path. The security guard's grandfatherly face has transformed into something cold and calculating. No need. We'll handle the cleanup. Company policy says, Thaddeus begins, but Garrett cuts him off. Forget company policy. The CFO's mask has completely fallen away now. He looks at Thaddeus like a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. You know, I thought you looked familiar. FBI, weren't you? Behavioral analysis? The room goes still. Even in her impaired state, Cordelia processes this revelation. The janitor is former FBI. The men surrounding her know this. Nothing about this situation is coincidental. That was a long time ago, Thaddeus says carefully, calculating distances, angles, weapons. The mop handle could work. The cleaning chemicals are caustic enough to cause damage. The window is reinforced, but not unbreakable. Not so long, Lysander speaks for the first time, his cultured voice carrying an undercurrent of amusement. 5 years, 3 months, 12 days since you resigned, right after your wife's unfortunate accident. Thaddeus's blood runs cold. They know about Madison. Of course they know. They caused it. You see, Lysander continues, moving closer with the confidence of a man who believes he's already won. We've been planning this for quite some time. Garrett here has been the perfect CFO for 3 years. Silas has given impeccable legal advice, and I've been the generous investor every growing company needs. Even Emmett. 12 years of loyal service, wasn't it? Emmett. 13 next month. Emmett corrects with a smile that makes Thaddeus's skin crawl. And you, Lysander focuses on Thaddeus. You were supposed to be nobody. A broken ex-agent drowning in grief and minimum wage obscurity. Yet here you are, trying to play hero. Not trying, Thaddeus says, and moves. The mop handle swings in a perfect arc, catching Silas in the solar plexus. The lawyer doubles over, gasping. Thaddeus pivots, using the handle to sweep Garrett's legs. The CFO goes down hard on the chemical-slicked floor. Emmett lunges forward, but Thaddeus anticipated it, sidestepping and using the older man's momentum to send him crashing into the conference table. Run! He shouts at Cordelia, but she's struggling to stand, the drugs still affecting her coordination. Lysander doesn't move to fight. Instead, he pulls out his phone and speaks calmly. Phase 2. Activate the protocols. The building's fire alarms suddenly shriek to life. Emergency lockdown procedures engage, sealing all exits. The elevator banks shut down. The stairwell doors lock. They're trapped on the 42nd floor, and Thaddeus realizes with sinking certainty that this was always the plan. He wasn't an unexpected variable. He was an anticipated one. "You see," Lysander says conversationally, as Garrett and Silas recover, forming a circle around Thaddeus and Cordelia. "We knew someone might try to interfere. We planned for it. The beautiful thing about behavioral analysis, Mr. Mercer, is that it works both ways. We profiled you. We knew that your hero complex, combined with your guilt over your wife's death, would make you intervene. The only thing we didn't account for," Garrett adds, wiping blood from his lip where he hit the floor, "was which night you'd finally break cover. That's why we've been running these little scenarios every few weeks." Cordelia's eyes widen in horror. "The late-night meetings, the emergency board sessions?" "All tests," Silas confirms, straightening his tie, "to see if anyone would try to stop us. Security guards, other executives, even janitors. You, Mr. Mercer, are contestant number 14. "What happened to the other 13? Thaddeus asks, though he suspects he knows. "Accidents," Emmett says simply. "Falls downstairs, car crashes, heart attacks. Seattle can be so dangerous at night." Thaddeus processes this information while calculating escape routes. The panic room in Cordelia's office requires her biometric scan and a code. If he can get her there, she'll be safe while he deals with the 4 men. But it's 30 yards through a maze of cubicles, and Cordelia can barely walk. "You're monsters," Cordelia manages to say, her voice stronger as adrenaline fights the sedatives. "We're businessmen," Lysander corrects. "Your father discovered our previous operation. We had to eliminate him, and needed someone pliable to replace him. You were perfect. Brilliant enough to run the company, but too trusting to see the rot we were spreading through it." "What operation?" she demands. "Industrial espionage on a grand scale," Garrett explains with obvious pride. "Every piece of cutting-edge technology your company develops gets sold to the highest bidder before it's even patented. The Chinese, the Russians, even some homegrown competitors. But after tonight, we won't need to steal it anymore. We'll own it all legally." "The documents are ruined," Thaddeus points out, gesturing at the chemical-soaked papers. "Those were copies," Silas says. "The real ones are in the safe in Cordelia's office, already signed and dated from last week. We've been having her sign things in her sleep for months. Sedatives in her coffee, quick signatures between dreams. She never remembers." The violation of it makes Cordelia retch. Thaddeus steadies her while his mind races. They've been drugging her repeatedly, accessing her office, using her like a puppet. The level of planning is staggering, but every plan has a weakness. "There's just one problem with your scheme," Thaddeus says, and despite everything, he smiles. "Oh?" Lysander raises an eyebrow. "Do tell." "You profiled me based on who I was 5 years ago. Grieving widower, broken agent, alone in the world. But things change. People change. Nothing significant has changed," Garrett insists. "You're still a janitor, still alone, still powerless." "My daughter has acute lymphoblastic leukemia," Thaddeus says quietly, and watches confusion flicker across their faces. This doesn't fit their profile. "Diagnosed 8 months ago. She needs treatments I can't afford. Medicines insurance won't cover. You think I kept this job for the $12 an hour? I kept it for the after-hours access to your computers, your files, your secrets." It's a lie, but lies are just another tool. Delphine is perfectly healthy, thank God, but they don't know that. "You're bluffing," Silas says, but uncertainty has crept into his voice. "Am I? Check your phones. Check your bank accounts. Check the emails you thought were encrypted." Thaddeus pulls out his own phone, making sure they can see the screen. It shows a timer counting down from 10 minutes. I've been collecting evidence for 8 months. Every crime, every payoff, every murder. In 10 minutes, it all goes to the FBI, the SEC, the IRS, and every major news outlet unless I enter a code to stop it. You're lying, Emmett says, but he's already pulling out his phone, checking his accounts. The FBI Cyber Crimes Unit has some fascinating new toys, Thaddeus continues, helping Cordelia toward the door. Amazing what they'll share with a former agent whose daughter is dying. Professional courtesy and all that. Lysander studies him with those cold eyes, then smiles. You're very good, Mr. Mercer. That was almost convincing. But you made one mistake. What's that? You mentioned the FBI's Cyber Crimes Unit. They were dissolved and absorbed into the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force 3 years ago. You would know that, if you still had any real contacts. Thaddeus's heart sinks. The bluff has failed. Lysander nods to the others, and they begin closing in. However, a new voice cuts through the tension, and everyone freezes. From behind a cubicle wall steps another figure, someone who shouldn't be there, couldn't be there. The NCIJF does have some fascinating new toys. It's Dr. Marcus Webb, the building's night physician, holding a very real, very official FBI badge. Agent Webb, actually, he says conversationally. We've been monitoring this situation for quite some time. Thank you for getting them to confess everything so clearly, Mr. Mercer. The recording devices in my medical bag picked up every word. The room erupts into chaos. Garrett bolts for the stairwell, but the locked door won't budge. Silas tries to destroy his phone, but Webb already has his weapon drawn. Not aimed, just visible. A reminder of reality. Emmett sinks into a chair, suddenly looking every one of his 70 years. But Lysander just laughs. Actually laughs. It's a sound like breaking glass. Oh, this is delicious, he says, clapping slowly. Agent Webb, how wonderful. Tell me, how long have you been undercover? 6 months? A year? 2 years, Webb replies steadily. 2 years. Lysander seems genuinely delighted. Fantastic. And in all that time, did you ever wonder why a building needs a night physician? Why a technology company would pay for round-the-clock medical care for a skeleton crew of janitors and security guards? Webb's confidence wavers slightly. Thaddeus feels the trap closing, but can't see its shape yet. You're not the only one playing a long game, Lysander continues. You see, Janitor Webb, sorry, Agent Webb, you've been very helpful to us. Every injury you've treated, every blood sample you've taken, every vaccination you've administered. Did you really think you were giving them flu shots? Horror dawns on Webb's face as he pulls out his phone, frantically dialing, but no signal gets through. The lockdown has jammed all communications. The beauty of biotechnology, Lysander explains, is that it's so versatile. The same proteins that fight disease can cause it. The same medicines that heal can create dependencies. Every person you've treated in this building now has a synthetic marker in their bloodstream. Harmless by itself, but when combined with a catalyst, he pulls out a small silver cylinder, like an asthma inhaler. One spray, and everyone you've helped will experience complete organ failure within 6 hours, unless, of course, they receive the antidote that only I can provide. You're insane, Webb breathes. I'm thorough, Lysander corrects. How many people have you treated, Agent? 50. 100. Can you really let them all die just to arrest us? Cordelia finds her voice. The janitors, the security staff, the night IT crew, they're all innocent people. Innocent people make the best hostages, Garrett adds, having recovered his composure. They have families, mortgages, dreams. Things worth living for. Thaddeus's mind races through options, but every scenario ends badly. Even if Webb shoots Lysander, the others might have triggers too. Even if they don't, finding and synthesizing an antidote in 6 hours would be impossible without knowing the exact compound. So here's what's going to happen, Lysander says, taking control again. Agent Webb is going to put down his weapon and his badge. Mr. Mercer is going to stop playing hero. And Ms. Ashworth is going to sign the real documents. Then everyone gets to live. Except us, Thaddeus says quietly. We've seen too much. You'll kill us anyway. Oh no, Lysander says with that terrible smile. Death would be wasteful. You'll disappear, certainly. But there are so many useful applications for people with your skill sets. Private military companies always need trainers. Certain pharmaceutical companies need test subjects. There are options. The timer on Thaddeus's phone reaches 0. Nothing happens, of course. It was all a bluff. But in that moment of anticlimax, something else occurs to him. If they've been running these scenarios for weeks, testing for interference, then they've been drugging Cordelia repeatedly. And if Webb has been here for 2 years, then... You treated her, Thaddeus says suddenly to Webb. Cordelia, you've treated her. Treated. Webb's face goes white. He has. Several times for minor injuries, stress-related symptoms. Which means she has the marker too. Thaddeus continues, the pieces clicking together. You're holding your own CEO hostage with her own bloodstream. Poetic, isn't it? Lysander agrees. But you're missing the bigger picture, Mr. Mercer. This isn't just about Nexus Technologies. This building hosts 43 different companies. Webb here has treated employees from all of them. One spray. And we have leverage over thousands of people, including some very important ones. The senator's son works in accounting. Garrett supplies helpfully. The governor's daughter is in marketing. The mayor's wife runs the coffee shop in the lobby. You've weaponized healthcare, Webb says, his voice hollow with defeat. We've monetized it, Silas corrects. There's a difference. Emmett, who's been quiet, finally speaks. My granddaughter. She works days in reception. I had Webb give her vitamins last month when she was tired. Does she have it too? For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Emmett's face. He looks at Lysander with something approaching fear. Everyone who matters has it, Lysander confirms coldly. Even you, Emmett. That back pain you had treated last year? We needed insurance that everyone would stay loyal. The security guard's face crumbles. You said my family would be protected. They are protected, Lysander says, as long as you continue to cooperate. That's the beauty of mutual assured destruction. Everyone stays calm because everyone has something to lose. But Thaddeus is watching Cordelia's face, and he sees something the others miss. Rage. Pure, crystallized rage, burning through the drugs and fear. The kind of rage that doesn't care about consequences. She moves before anyone expects it, grabbing the silver cylinder from Lysander's hand. He reacts quickly, but the chemical slick floor works against him. They struggle, and the inhaler skitters across the marble, stopping at Thaddeus's feet. Don't! Lysander shouts, real fear in his voice for the first time. You don't understand. It's not just a trigger. It's synchronized. Press that, and it activates every dispersal unit we've hidden throughout the building. Everyone gets exposed. Thaddeus picks up the cylinder, feeling its weight. Such a small thing to hold so many lives. Cordelia has backed away from Lysander, her breathing ragged, but her eyes clear. The adrenaline has burned through most of the sedatives. How many units? Thaddeus asks. 14, Garrett answers, when Lysander doesn't. One on every 3rd floor. Ventilation systems will spread it building-wide in minutes. And the antidote? Doesn't exist, Lysander says, regaining his composure. Not as a single compound anyway. It has to be synthesized from 3 separate components, and only I know the formula. He's lying, Webb interjects. No one creates a bioweapon without protecting themselves first. They all have the antidote, probably on them right now. Silas reaches reflexively for his pocket, then catches himself. But it's too late. Thaddeus has seen the tell. So has Webb, who moves toward the lawyer, but Garrett blocks him. Even if we have it, Garrett says, there's not enough for everyone. We have maybe 20 doses between us. The building has 300 people working night shift. You're all going to prison, Cordelia says with cold certainty. Every one of you. Perhaps, Lysander agrees. But how many innocents die first? Can you live with that, Ms. Ashworth? Can you, Mr. Mercer? Your righteousness balanced against 300 lives? This is the trap, Thaddeus realizes. Not the drugs or the lockdown or even the bioweapon. It's the choice. Save everyone by letting the villains win, or stop them and become a mass murderer by proxy. It's brilliant in its cruelty. But then he remembers something Delphine said last week while they were watching a nature documentary. Daddy, why does the snake always think it's winning just because it's poisonous? The mongoose is immune. Immunity. Webb, Thaddeus says urgently, the treatments you gave, were they all the same? No, Webb says slowly, thinking. Different people got different protocols based on their medical needs. Why? Because if they're all different, then the marker can't be universal. It would have to be tailored to each protocol, which means the trigger would have to be specifically calibrated, Webb finishes, understanding flooding his face. A universal dispersal wouldn't work. It might affect some people but not others, and the reactions would be unpredictable. Lysander's composure cracks slightly. They've found something. You're gambling, Silas says quickly. You can't know that for certain. But you can't know it won't work either, Thaddeus counters. Your perfect plan requires perfect information, but medicine isn't perfect. People's biochemistries are unique, their reactions unpredictable. How many test subjects did you have? 10? 20? Did you test every possible combination? We tested enough, Lysander insists, but doubt has crept into his voice. Enough to be sure it works, Cordelia says, understanding the game now. But not enough to be sure it works on everyone. That's why you need the signed documents. The bioweapon is your nuclear option, but you don't actually want to use it because you don't know if it will work the way you think. The antidote, Emmett says suddenly, and everyone turns to look at him. If the trigger might not work universally, then the antidote might not either. Some people might not need it, and for others, it might not be enough. He pulls out a small vial from his pocket. He has it too. They all do. My granddaughter has type 1 diabetes, he continues, his voice growing stronger. Different metabolism, different blood chemistry. Your marker might not even have taken hold in her system. The villains exchange glances. This isn't going according to plan. But Lysander rallies, always the leader, always in control. It doesn't matter, he declares. Even if it only works on half the people, that's still 150 deaths. Are you really willing to risk that? Thaddeus looks at the cylinder in his hand, then at Cordelia, Webb, even Emmett. They're all waiting for him to decide, but that's not how this works. Heroes don't get to make unilateral decisions about other people's lives. We vote, he says simply. What? Garrett laughs. This isn't a democracy. It is now. Thaddeus cuts him off. Everyone in this room has skin in the game. Everyone gets a say. We vote. Surrender to their demands or trigger the device and hope our theory is right. That's insane, Silas protests. That's fair, Cordelia counters. All in favor of triggering it? She raises her hand. So does Webb. Emmett hesitates, thinking of his granddaughter, then slowly raises his. Thaddeus adds his hand to the count. All opposed. Garrett, Silas, and Lysander raise their hands, but it doesn't matter. They're outvoted. Democracy is such a flawed system, Lysander says with genuine disappointment. Thaddeus presses the trigger. The cylinder clicks, a soft mechanical sound that seems impossibly loud in the frozen moment. Nothing happens immediately. No hissing gas. No sudden choking. No dramatic collapse. For 3 heartbeats, everyone stands perfectly still, waiting for death that doesn't come. Then the building's ventilation system shifts, a subtle change in air pressure that makes everyone's ears pop. You fool, Lysander breathes, but his voice carries more curiosity than anger. You've actually done it. Through the conference room's glass walls, they can see the building's automatic emergency lighting flickering to life in sequence, floor by floor. Somewhere far below, an alarm begins to wail. Not the fire alarm from earlier, but something else. Something medical. Webb's phone suddenly buzzes with an emergency alert, despite the communication jamming. He reads it, his face cycling through confusion, shock, and then something approaching awe. The building's medical sensors are going haywire. They're detecting a massive chemical anomaly, but he trails off, staring at the data. But what? Cordelia demands, steadying herself against the table as another wave of dizziness hits her. Though whether from the drugs or fear, she can't tell. The readings are inconsistent. Some floors show massive contamination. Others show nothing. 3rd floor is critical, but 4th floor is clean. 7th floor is moderate, but 6th and 8th are normal. It's like the dispersal units had different compounds in them, Thaddeus finishes, understanding dawning. You didn't create one bioweapon. You created 14 different ones. Garrett's laugh is bitter and short. We randomized them. Lysander's idea. He said redundancy through variety was better than uniformity. Shut up, Lysander snaps, but it's too late. The truth is spilling out like water through a cracked dam. Each floor got a different variant, Silas adds, his lawyer's instinct for precision overriding his caution. Different triggers, different markers, different effects. The antidote we carry only works for the variant we were personally inoculated against. Which means, Emmett says slowly, horror creeping into his voice, we're all just as vulnerable as everyone else. My antidote protects me from maybe one variant, but there are 13 others. The power dynamic in the room shifts palpably. The predators have just realized they're also prey. Through the windows, Seattle's night skyline glitters indifferently, but now they can see emergency vehicles converging on the building from multiple directions. Someone, somewhere, has managed to get a signal out. The lockdown that was supposed to trap Thaddeus and Cordelia has become a cage for everyone. We need to evacuate the building, Webb says urgently, medical training overriding everything else. Get everyone out, set up decontamination protocols. No one's leaving, a new voice interrupts, and everyone spins toward the door. Standing there, having somehow entered without anyone noticing, is a man in an expensive suit who looks utterly unremarkable except for his eyes. Flat, dead things that reflect light without warmth. Not until we resolve this situation properly. Who the hell are you? Lysander demands, and for the first time tonight, he sounds genuinely uncertain. Someone who's very disappointed in this operation, the man says, entering the room with the casual confidence of someone who knows he's the apex predator. 4 years of planning, millions in resources, and you let a janitor and a compromised FBI agent derail everything. Really, Lysander, I expected better. Cassius. Garrett breathes the name like a curse. Dr. Cassius Malvern, Thaddeus realizes, though he's never seen the man before. The name appears in fragments throughout Madison's old notes, always adjacent to tragedy. A brilliant biochemist who officially died in a laboratory fire 6 years ago. A ghost who seems to haunt every corporate conspiracy Madison investigated. Dr. Malvern, Lysander says, attempting to recover his composure. We can still salvage this. The documents are worthless now. Cassius cuts him off. Too many witnesses, too much exposure. No, we're moving to the contingency protocol. He pulls out what looks like a standard smartphone, but Thaddeus recognizes the modified hardware. Military-grade encryption, satellite uplink, probably hardened against EMP. This man came prepared for war. Contingency protocol? Cordelia asks, though her voice suggests she doesn't really want to know. Complete sterilization, Cassius says matter-of-factly. The building will suffer a catastrophic gas leak in approximately 8 minutes. The explosion will be blamed on aging infrastructure, and everyone who might complicate our narrative will cease to be a problem. You can't be serious, Silas objects. There are 300 innocent people. There are no innocent people, Cassius corrects, his tone professorial. There are assets and liabilities. Right now, everyone in this building has become a liability. Including us? Garrett asks, fear creeping into his voice. Especially you, Cassius confirms. You've proven unreliable. New personnel will be recruited for the next attempt. The room erupts into chaos as the conspiracy turns on itself. Garrett lunges for Cassius, but the doctor sidesteps with surprising agility, producing a small pistol from his jacket. The shot is quiet, barely louder than a cough, but Garrett crumples, clutching his shoulder. Sit down, all of you, Cassius orders, and something in his voice makes even Lysander obey. We're going to wait for the gas buildup to reach critical mass, and then we're all going to die together. Poetic justice, really. But Thaddeus is watching the man's movements, the micro-expressions, the tiny tells that 15 years of behavioral analysis have taught him to read. Cassius is lying, not about the explosion, that's real, but about dying together. This man has an exit strategy. The medical choppers, Thaddeus says suddenly, and Cassius's left eye twitches. A hit. You've got an extraction planned, probably the roof, timed for just before the explosion. Let me guess, you'll be the sole survivor, tragically unable to save anyone else. Clever, Cassius acknowledges. Your reputation wasn't exaggerated, Mr. Mercer. Yes, I'll survive, and I'll be the hero who tried to stop Lysander's bioterrorism plot. The evidence is already planted. His offshore accounts, his connections to hostile foreign governments, even a manifesto on his home computer. He'll be remembered as a monster, and I'll disappear into witness protection. You've been planning this longer than 4 years, Cordelia says, understanding flooding her features. My father discovered something about you, not them. Your father was brilliant, Cassius agrees. Too brilliant. He found connections between 30 years of corporate accidents and traced them back toward me. He had to go, but martyrs are problematic, so I had Lysander kill him and take the blame, eventually. Lysander's face cycles through rage, betrayal, and finally resignation. You've been playing us from the beginning. Obviously. Cassius checks his phone. 6 minutes until critical mass. I should mention, the gas leak is quite real. I had the maintenance system sabotaged months ago. One spark, and this entire building becomes a crater. Thaddeus's mind races through options, but they're all bad. Even if they could key overpower Cassius, stopping a gas leak of that magnitude would require accessing maintenance systems that are probably locked down or destroyed. The windows are reinforced. They'd need explosives to break them, and that would trigger the very explosion they're trying to prevent. But then Emmett does something unexpected. He laughs. Not a bitter laugh or a defeated laugh, but genuine amusement. "What's so funny?" Cassius demands, his composure cracking slightly. "You," Emmett says, still chuckling. "The great puppet master, pulling all our strings. Except you made the same mistake they did. You trusted the profiles, the patterns, the data. But people aren't data points. We're contradictions." He pulls something from his pocket, not the antidote vial from earlier, but a small electronic device about the size of a car key fob. "Building maintenance gave me this 30 years ago," he explains. "Emergency override for the ventilation system. Completely mechanical. No computer interface. I've been carrying it ever since. Never used it once. Kept meaning to turn it in when I retired. But I liked the weight of it in my pocket. Reminded me I was responsible for people's safety." "That won't stop a gas leak," Cassius points out, but uncertainty has crept into his voice. "No, but it'll redirect it," Emmett says. "Vent it straight up through the roof exhaust instead of letting it pool in the building. Won't stop an explosion if there's an ignition source, but it'll minimize the damage. Maybe just take out the top few floors instead of the whole building." "You'll kill us all," Silas objects. "Maybe," Emmett agrees. "But the people below might survive. My granddaughter might survive." He presses the button before anyone can stop him. The building's ventilation system roars to life, a massive intake of air that makes everyone's ears pop painfully. Papers fly off the conference table, and the chemical smell from the spilled cleaning solution becomes overpowering. Through the windows, they can see the roof access door burst open from the pressure, a visible plume of gas vents into the night sky, dispersing in the wind over Puget Sound. Cassius raises his pistol toward Emmett, but Webb moves faster, tackling the doctor. They struggle, and the gun skitters across the floor. Lysander dives for it, but Cordelia kicks it away, sending it sliding under the heavy conference table. In the chaos, Thaddeus notices something crucial. Cassius's phone has fallen from his pocket, its screen still unlocked. He grabs it, scrolling quickly through recent messages, and finds what he's looking for. Not an extraction plan, but something far more valuable, a dead man's switch. "Stop!" he shouts, and everyone freezes. Cassius has the building rigged with more than gas. There are explosive charges on the support structures. If his vitals stop, or he doesn't enter a code every 10 minutes, the whole thing comes down anyway. Cassius, pinned under Webb, manages a bloody smile. "Insurance policy. You can't win, Mercer. Kill me. Everyone dies. Let me go. I disappear, and maybe only most of you die. Either way, I win." "There's a third option," a young voice says from the doorway, and Thaddeus's heart stops. Standing there, impossibly, is Delphine. His 7-year-old daughter in her pajamas and rainbow slippers, holding an iPad and looking remarkably calm for a child in a hostage situation. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here?" Thaddeus moves toward her, but she holds up a hand, a gesture so adult it makes him pause. "Following you, Daddy. You always check on me before your shift, but tonight you forgot. I knew something was wrong, so I used the app you installed to track your phone." "Delphine, you need to leave. In a minute," she interrupts, walking into the room with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. "First, I need to show you something, Mr. Cassius." She holds up the iPad, and on the screen is a live feed. Not from a news channel, but from what looks like someone's personal live stream. The view shows this very conference room from an unusual angle, from the ceiling vent. "I've been streaming this entire conversation for the past 5 minutes," she explains. 14,000 viewers and climbing. Hashtag Seattle Tower Terror is trending. Everyone knows who you are now, what you've done, what you're planning. Even if you escape, where would you go? Your face is everywhere. Cassius stares at the child. This impossible variable that no profile or pattern could have predicted. A 7-year-old with an iPad and the technological intuition of her generation. You're bluffing, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. Delphine turns the iPad around, showing the comment feed scrolling by at breakneck speed. FBI agents identifying themselves, local police confirming they're watching, journalists asking for statements. The digital age's version of being surrounded. The Seattle PD SWAT team is 8 minutes out, Delphine reads from the feed. FBI emergency response team is 12 minutes out. Someone from the governor's office says they're watching. Oh, and someone called Badger Mike 24 says you're a word I'm not allowed to say. Despite everything, Thaddeus feels a surge of impossible pride. His daughter, his brilliant, brave, foolish daughter, has done what none of them could. She's made their private war public. It doesn't matter, Cassius says, desperation entering his voice. The dead man's switch is connected to your phone, Thaddeus interrupts, holding up the device. Which is biometrically locked to you, but still logged in for another. He checks. 43 seconds. More than enough time to disable it, unless you've got a password we need. Cassius's face goes white. The password exists, but entering it wrong will trigger the explosives immediately. A final failsafe against coercion. 30 seconds. Thaddeus counts down. What's it gonna be, Doctor? Take everyone with you or live to potentially see another day? You wouldn't risk it, Cassius insists. Not with your daughter here. 20 seconds. You're right, I wouldn't risk it. But I don't have to. See, while you were focused on me, my daughter did something else. She changed the building's Wi-Fi password. Confusion flickers across Cassius's face, then understanding, then horror. The dead man's switch requires an internet connection to receive his vitals and send the detonation signal. Without Wi-Fi, it's just an expensive paperweight. 10 seconds, Thaddeus continues. The phone will lock, and you'll be just another criminal waiting for arrest. Or you can give us the password, disable the system properly, and maybe the FBI makes a deal. 5 seconds. 4, 3, Vienna 7 Echo Tango 9, Cassius gasps out. Thaddeus types quickly. The screen flashes green, and a message appears. System disarmed. Everyone in the room exhales simultaneously, the release of tension so palpable it's almost visible. Cassius slumps in defeat, all his careful planning undone by a 7-year-old with Wi-Fi admin access. Daddy, Delphine says, and finally, she sounds like a scared little girl. Can we go home now? He scoops her up, holding her tight. Yeah, sweetheart, we can go home. But Cordelia steps forward, and despite everything, the drugs still in her system, the betrayal of her closest advisors, the near-death experience, she looks magnificent in her determination. Not yet, she says, then addresses the iPad stream. This is Cordelia Ashworth, CEO of Nexus Technologies. What you've witnessed tonight is the culmination of a conspiracy that goes back years, possibly decades. Every person involved will be held accountable. Every crime will be exposed. But more than that, we're going to make sure this never happens again. She turns to Webb. Agent Webb, I'm formally requesting FBI protection for all witnesses, especially the Mercer family. Then to Emmett. Mr. Walsh, you saved 300 lives tonight. Your granddaughter should be proud. To Lysander, Garrett, and Silas. You three will have the best lawyers money can buy. You'll need them. And finally to Cassius. You took my father from me. You tried to take my company, my sanity, my life. You failed, and you'll have the rest of your life in prison to think about that failure. The sound of helicopters fills the air, not just one or two, but a swarm. FBI, Seattle PD, news crews, probably half the emergency services in the state. The building's lockdown system finally fails, and the elevators ding as they come back online. "Ms. Ashworth," Thaddeus says formally, setting Delphine down but keeping her close. "I believe my shift is over." She looks at him. Really looks at him. And for the first time since he started working here 2 years ago, she sees him completely. Not the janitor, not the ex-FBI agent, not the hero, but the man. The father who risked everything to do the right thing. "It is," she agrees. "But I'm hoping you might consider a change in position. My entire executive team is about to be arrested, and I'll need people I can trust. People who see things others miss. People who do the right thing even when it costs them everything." "I just want to take my daughter home," he says softly. "Of course, but tomorrow, or whenever you're ready, the offer stands." She pauses, then adds quietly, so only he can hear. "Besides, someone needs to teach me the difference between real trust and manufactured loyalty. I seem to have trouble with that." Despite everything, he almost smiles. That's not something you learn in a boardroom. "No," she agrees, "but maybe it's something you learn over coffee. When all this is over, would you, if you're interested." "Daddy likes tea, not coffee," Delphine interrupts helpfully. "Green tea with honey. He says coffee makes him jittery." Cordelia laughs, actually laughs, for the first time in who knows how long. "Tea then, when you're ready." The next few hours blur together in a chaos of statements, evidence processing, and media management. Cassius, Lysander, Garrett, and Silas are taken into custody, each in separate vehicles to prevent any coordination. The bioweapon dispersal turns out to have affected only 43 people throughout the building, all with mild symptoms that Webb is able to treat using information forced from Cassius. Emmett is hailed as a hero, though he deflects most of the credit to Thaddeus and Delphine. His granddaughter arrives with the morning shift, and their reunion, captured by news cameras, becomes the human interest story that everyone shares. Agent Webb, his cover blown, but his mission ultimately successful, coordinates with the real FBI cyber crimes unit, which definitely exists despite the organizational restructuring, to trace 30 years of Cassius's crimes across 6 countries and 14 corporations. As dawn breaks over Seattle, Thaddeus stands in the building's lobby, with Delphine asleep in his arms. She's crashed hard after her adrenaline spike, and he doesn't have the heart to wake her. Through the glass doors, he can see the city awakening, normal people heading to normal jobs, blissfully unaware of how close they came to disaster. "Mr. Mercer," Cordelia approaches, having finally given her last statement to the authorities. "My driver can take you home. It's the least I can do." "We'll take the bus," he says gently. "Delphine likes to watch the city wake up through the windows. It's our tradition after my overnight shifts." "You have traditions for 5 a.m.? Single-parent life. You make traditions wherever you can find them." She nods, understanding more than he's saying. Then, surprising them both, she reaches out and gently adjusts Delphine's collar, which had gotten twisted in sleep. "She's remarkable," Cordelia says. "You've raised someone special." "She raised herself mostly. I just tried to keep up." "That's not true, Daddy," Delphine mumbles without opening her eyes. "You taught me to notice things, patterns and tells and micro-expressions. You said the truth is always there if you know how to look." "Eavesdropping is rude, sweetheart." "So is false modesty," she counters, then yawns enormously. "Can Ms. Ashworth come to our tea tradition tomorrow? She seems nice when she's not being drugged." Cordelia blushes. Actually blushes. I wouldn't want to intrude. 3 p.m. Secure a tea house on Pine Street. Thaddeus finds himself saying. Delphine does her homework while I decompress from the night shift. You're welcome to join if you can handle a 7-year-old's commentary on Common Core math. I run a technology company. I think I can handle elementary mathematics. That's what they all say until they see how they teach long division now. She smiles, and for a moment, in the gentle morning light, she looks nothing like the untouchable CEO he's watched from a distance for 2 years. She looks like someone who might actually enjoy tea and homework discussions, someone who might fit into their small, carefully built world. 3 p.m., she confirms. I'll bring my own homework. Quarterly reports wait for no one. As they part ways, Cordelia to her waiting Mercedes, Thaddeus to the number 47 bus. His phone buzzes with a news alert. Nexus Technologies stock soars on news of CEO's heroic stand against corporate corruption. He deletes it without reading further. The real world can wait. Right now, his daughter needs breakfast, probably pancakes shaped like stars, because that's their tradition after difficult nights. Tomorrow, there will be tea and awkward conversation, and maybe the beginning of something neither of them expected. But in the depths of the city, in a holding cell awaiting processing, Cassius Malvern stares at the ceiling and smiles, because the beautiful thing about 30-year plans is that they account for contingencies, even this one. Somewhere, in a safety deposit box in Vancouver, a timer counts down to 0 and a new protocol activates. The game isn't over. It's just entering the next phase, but that's a problem for tomorrow. Today, a janitor takes his daughter home. A CUO rebuilds her company on a foundation of truth, and for once, just once, the good guys actually win. Even if victory, like trust, is more fragile than anyone wants to admit. 3 weeks pass before Thaddeus returns to the Nexus Technologies building, this time through the front entrance in broad daylight. Delphine holds his hand, wearing her best dress, the one she insists makes her look like a junior executive. The security guard at the desk, a new hire to replace those arrested in the conspiracy, doesn't recognize them at first. Then his eyes widen. Mr. Mercer, Sir, Ms. Ashworth is expecting you. Executive elevator, straight to 42. The ride up feels different in daylight, in a suit borrowed from Webb instead of a janitor's uniform. Delphine chatters about her science project on behavioral patterns in goldfish, which she insists proves fish have better memories than adults. The elevator opens to a transformed executive floor. Gone are the dark corners and suspicious glances, replaced by open workspace and transparent glass walls. Cordelia's first reform. She meets them at the elevator, and Thaddeus almost doesn't recognize her. Gone is the severe ponytail and armor-like business suit. She wears simple slacks and a soft sweater, her hair falling naturally around her shoulders. She looks younger, less burdened, almost happy. Delphine, she greets warmly, then catches herself. Ms. Mercer, thank you for accepting our meeting request. Delphine giggles. You can call me Del. Everyone does except Daddy when I'm in trouble. Which is often, Thaddeus adds dryly. Cordelia leads them not to the conference room where everything went wrong, but to a smaller, warmer space that's been converted into something between an office and a living room. There's a reading nook, a small table with tea service already prepared, and most surprisingly, a corner filled with children's books and educational toys. I thought if we're going to make this arrangement work, Delphine should be comfortable, Cordelia explains, almost shy. What arrangement? Thaddeus asks carefully. Head of security position is still open, she says, pouring green tea with practiced precision. But I know that's not really you. So I created something new. Director of Operational Intelligence. You'd oversee not just security but ethical compliance, employee welfare, pattern recognition in our business practices. The things that slip through cracks because nobody's really watching. That's a fancy title for janitor with a raise, he observes. It's a fancy title for someone who sees what others miss, she corrects. Someone who saved 300 lives because he noticed a laugh was too high, a pattern too perfect. Someone who taught his daughter to live stream a hostage situation because he knew transparency beats shadows every time. Delphine, who's been exploring the toy corner, calls out, "Daddy, she has the advanced Lego architecture set, the one you said was too expensive." "Bribery is unethical, Ms. Ashworth," Thaddeus says, but he's fighting a smile. "It's not bribery if I genuinely enjoy building them myself," she replies, "though I could use help. The Sydney Opera House has been defeating me for weeks." They spend the next 2 hours in comfortable conversation while Delphine constructs architectural marvels with frightening efficiency. Cordelia explains her vision for rebuilding the company, implementing safeguards against future corruption, creating an employee council with real power. Thaddeus offers suggestions, catches loopholes she's missed, points out human elements her corporate thinking overlooked. The tea tradition worked better, he finally admits. Less pressure. This feels like a job interview. It is partly, she concedes. But also, she pauses, vulnerability flickering across her features. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in 3 years. Everyone always wanted something. My money, my influence, my signature. You're the first person who wanted me to just be safe. That's not entirely true, he says quietly. I do want something. Her expression shifts to guarded disappointment, but he continues. I want to know you're eating actual meals, not just coffee and power bars. I want to know you have someone to talk to when the PTSD hits, and it will hit. Trust me. I want to know that when you're drugged and terrified, someone will notice your laugh is wrong. The words hang between them, carrying more weight than any contract negotiation. Cordelia's eyes shine with unshed tears, but she blinks them back with practiced control. Is that the job interview or the tea tradition talking? She manages. Daddy likes you, Delphine announces without looking up from her Lego creation. He uses his soft voice. He only does that with me, and sometimes with Mrs. Chen next door when her cat dies, which happens a lot because she's very old and keeps getting old cats. Delphine! What? It's true, and Ms. Cordelia likes you too. She built a whole play corner just for me, and she doesn't even know if you're taking the job. That's called emotional investment. We learned about it in social studies. Both adults stare at the 7-year-old oracle who's casually assembled half of Sydney Harbor while dissecting their careful emotional dancing. She looks up, innocent as sunrise. What? You taught me to observe. I observed.